Welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashley and Michael Donald. Hospitality isn't just our profession, it's our passion. With decades of experience and countless stories to share, we've navigated the highs and lows of this dynamic industry, not just as professionals, but as a husband and wife team tackling the challenges of business and life together. This podcast is your invitation to step behind the curtain of the hospitality world. We'll share real experiences, lessons learned, and the moments that have shaped our journey, offering inspiration and insights for anyone walking a similar path. Whether you're just starting out or have years under your belt, we're here to remind you that every challenge is an opportunity and every story has the power to inspire.
Welcome to the Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashley and Michael Donald. Today we're back with our third instalment of travel and hospitality trends for 2026, exploring what is shaping the way we travel, stay and spend. This is literally my favourite time of the year, and that's not just for eating mince pies and drinking Baileys when I can, but it is absolutely travel trend season, and I just love exploring them. So we've covered a couple of episodes so far, and today we're taking inspiration from the brilliant Forbes series, which I look forward to every year, written by Angelina Villa-Clark, which also references the Future Laboratories report of travel and hospitality futures, Optimize Odysseys, which we'll link up in the notes, alongside some wonderful PR agencies, including Fox Communications, who share some of their latest insights and other various industry roundups. So, Michael, good session today.
I do like this time of year too. I think at the time we're recording it, our Christmas decorations are not up, but by the time it comes out, I think they will be. And I love talking about these travel trends as well. There was a great quote from Natasha Shafi, who's the CEO of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She says that travel will no longer be just about escape. It's about expansion. The most sought-after stays over the next decade will be defined by how they move and change you.
Wow. That definitely leads us nicely.
Isn't it?
It is. And I think, over a number of episodes where we've delved into various trends, not just in these sort of kind of roundup series, there's definitely a move towards more authentic experiences, transformative travel, as you say, and there's some really lovely trends that kind of anchor to this. So we're going to kick off with a trend that is featured in the Forbes article through Future Lab of sub-holidaying and puddling. I love this. So what are we talking about here?
Well, the best thing about these trends is that there's
just
often just new names that we've never heard of before, and it's like, okay, that's what we're calling it now. But sub-holidaying trend is kind of a, I think Angelina Villa-Clark is the one who coins it, doesn't she? And she talks about a back to basics yearning for being idle. Now, we've not had one of those in a while, for soaking up the moment without doing much at all.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a pushback.
It is on kind of those like heavily scheduled trips, which I know I'm full victim of, where I'm trying to pack everything in and just want to sort of make the most of it. But
you need actually, a holiday after the holiday.
Well, yeah, and actually sort of that making the most of it, what are you actually, taking from it? And I think, IHG... Actually, they're the ones, that have coined the puddling. But I think, Angelina talks about it across this kind of full sub-holidaying trend. But that really looks at kind of transformative travel around nature and about kind of much more, enriching experiences. So, I think where there's a trend for some of these kind of real holiday hotspots that are often coastal destinations by the beach, that can often be a bit overcrowded, sort of victims of over-tourism. IHG have really looked at research on people choosing to stay closer to maybe small lakes or ponds and much kind of slower-paced waterfront communities, and very much with nature at the heart of the stay. So people are just much more intentional about choosing places for these kind of like long weekends and mini resets.
Yeah, that sort of slow travel movement I think we've spoken about in the past a little bit, with travellers staying longer, spending more intentional time and choosing places easy to get to. It is fascinating. Hilton as well, they've talked about the top motivation for leisure travel in 2026 is going to be to rest and recharge, which is very much in line
Yeah.
with this sub-holidaying and puddling, and it does make sense. It's kind of it's been a hectic few years of different travel trends and people getting back into it after not being able to travel for a while. But it does feel like people want to actually rest and recharge, and then hobbies are coming into it as well. And Booking.com also talks in their travel trends. They talk about quiet pursuits like bird watching and foraging and nature-based stays as a key trend. Whitley Bay is a good place for that. Northumberland, great place for that if anyone wants to come and visit. But what can hotels do to kind of take advantage of this, Ash?
I think it's about looking first at your your target audience, and I think every hotel will have a specific number of segments that they're targeting and guest personas, and I think looking at how you can tap into building this. So obviously if you're in a location that lends itself well to this, if you're in the forest, if you're by a lake, of course, then you can build that in very kind of easily. I think where perhaps more like urban locations can tap into that, there's often lots of different ways that you can create these kind of oasis in the city, whether that's through the design and amenities within your hotels, and very much looking at working with aligned partners to bring in certain guest experiences, whether that is it could be as simple as kind of exploring local parks with a forager. And I mean, we've been on a wonderful trip with looking at sort of mushrooms and foraging with sort of community just in local woodlands. So there's a lot of sort of additional experiences that you can layer onto hotels. If you don't necessarily have it right on tap, there's a lot you can kind of do with sort of partnerships.
And not even just partnerships with external. Like so often there's people in your teams that have these passions that can be used. And you mentioned the foraging. I mean, when we worked up in Turnberry, the chef was particularly into that and the foraging. And yes, there was a particular reason for that because it suited the menu. But as a guest going in and hearing about it, it's fascinating, and I want to learn more. And yes, I want to know what mushrooms I can pick and which I can't. And to walk with someone who really understands that, the safety aspect of it as well, is fascinating. And that kind of the passion for any of those activities, it is very attractive to customers, and if you can turn that into an experiential element, I think that's always interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so there's as you say, kind of identifying those kind of key rituals or experiences that you want to incorporate, and then really looking at working closely with marketing, revenue team, your partners that you're working with, and kind of building those experiences into a bookable package that's available across multiple channels, engaging with your PR teams to really message that, getting some great content. And there's often micro-influencers that you can work with that maybe specialise in certain subjects or really passionate about them. So
sure.
Work with them, create some amazing content. And what I would say is, and this is for everything, is really anchor to a few things that you're really passionate about, rather than perhaps diluting it with trying to be all things to all people. And really focus on doing a few things really well, and then really looking at what channels will kind of amplify that message, what influencers are most aligned, what media outlets are going to be most aligned to that audience that you want to reach. And trial and error sometimes as well. Sometimes
just giving things a go.
You can create something that on paper is just so aligned to your brand and it looks great, and you don't necessarily get any bookings. But actually, sometimes the sort of PR value is, and that kind of brand alignment is really on point. So sometimes it's not necessarily about making money in the commercial side. It could be more sort of a softer approach and that kind of brand alignment. But just so much opportunity, I think, to add those layers without over programming.
Absolutely. And from sub-holidaying as well, there must be a sort of the all inclusive package, we talked about that a little bit in our one of our other episodes, but there must be a benefit as well if people are taking that more focus on relaxation and less activity. Then there must be some sort of benefit of keeping people on site as well, or an opportunity to keep people on site with those sort of all inclusive packages if they are built in such a way that help that, encourage that, and or facilitate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Without people feeling like they're missing out on an experience in the local area. And obviously that works more in certain areas than others. A resort in the middle of nowhere, yes, there not many options. In a city, it is hard because when you visit a city, there's just so much choice.
So many attractions. But I think you can definitely bring some of those elements in to the hotel, whether that's through different specialists, and be sort of the space to kind of collaborate and bring those people in, whether that's through different workshops or salons and sort of wellness-led events, or you can build, really, I mean, there's just so much tech around how you can kind of build these curated itineraries as well. So you can sort of add as much or as little as you would like to your experience. And that can all be done at your kind of booking stage or pre-arrival stage as well. So yes, lots of options. And I think it's just about being really intentional and targeted with who your guests are and what they would like to experience, rather than just throwing every potential experience at them.
Throw everything in it and see what sticks. To segue a little bit from sub-holidaying, because it's a very similar theme, is sort of wellness and how wellness is being redefined. And Forbes talk about this a bit, and they talk about this reset on travel and sleep tourism.
Yeah.
Fox Communications also released something. They're talking about wellness and clarity as a luxury. So, what are we looking at here?
So I think to sort of reset and the sleep tourism, I mean, it feels, we're in the business of hospitality and probably we're talking quite specifically about hotels and, what's the primary purpose that people go to a hotel and what do they spend most of their time doing while they're at the hotel? It is sleeping. So there's been a real, I think, refocus and resurgence on, of course, hotels are there to elevate that whole experience, and you feel better when you left than when you arrived. But ultimately, the sleep, and there's a lot of data. I think some of the big brands have really come out with the importance of sleep. I think Hilton did a really great report of just the importance of sleep and how much people are placing that as a choice. And so there's from probably the early 2000s, you had the Western Heavenly Bed, and you had the brands really anchoring their something as a kind of product. But I think it's kind of evolved beyond just the product. So there's lots of kind of wellness amenities and things that you can have within the room, but then there's more sort of restorative rituals that can be built in. There's all sorts of in-room kind of wellness tech, like wearable technology that guests can use whilst during their stay, sleep concierges. There's, just a plethora of different things. So I think brands are really tapping into, what can they kind of bring to that guest experience to elevate, whether it's, through, infrared, whether it's, the IV infusions. There's just so much. It's a really
hard one for me. I once had my wake up alarm call go off while I was on the dance floor at a club in London and missed my night's sleep completely. But the best tip I can ever give to any hotel is spend time in your guest rooms and really understand what it feels like there, because you got to get the basics right. If there's noisy connecting doors, or if someone's walking around first thing in the morning with a noisy trolley or something, or banging doors, or a fire door that slams shut at 11 o'clock at night and makes a terrible racket, versus maybe a soft close that needs to be on there. Like this, there can be such simple things to first get right.
I think, and that's a really good point, because sleeping. I think there's a lot of kind of tendency to rush towards, what kind of smart tech can we put in and layer it, and actually sometimes it is just getting the basics right, and just like checking and staying in the room and experiencing it. And I know when we've worked on hotel openings before, there's such a process where every room has to be, I think, slept in twice, and there's a whole kind of criteria, and actually we focus on that for openings, but is that an ongoing operational element? And sometimes and
it can be very different doing that in pre-opening versus once the
as
hotel is actually open and people are going to bed at different times and all sorts of things.
And kind of there are certain processes or maybe certain amenities which are listed in various platforms, which perhaps when the guest arrives, are they there? And I think having that consistency to ensure that, I suppose, what you're promising is being delivered. And it's, again, I think, as you say, just ensuring that it's being experienced and it's a real seamless kind of experience for the guests.
So I mean, there is always a commercial question to these things as well. So will guests really pay more for this, for clarity and these sort of wellness choices and the quiet and the better sleep, and how I
would definitely put a high value on a good night's sleep, especially at the moment. But look, I think it does depend on the positioning and sort of where you sit within, the whole kind of price sensitivity of your guests. I think it is sometimes a little bit easier in that slightly more like luxury and like upper scale segments to bolt on some of these elements, and to a certain extent they might be able to be absorbed into the room rate, or they could be added as an add-on, and there's enough kind of bandwidth, and the sort of price cap isn't stretching your spend too much. But yes, for certain brands, if you're layering all of these different things to it, you're going to hit a ceiling, and your guest isn't necessarily going to be willing to pay for that. But I think it's about looking at what is possible, and there's definitely like just small adjustments I think that can be made. So even for more kind of mid-scale brands, I think that there's a version for each brand as you kind of climb up to the sort of ultra luxury. But yes, I mean, undoubtedly the higher end and the more budgets, and perhaps the more accustomed maybe these audiences are to using a lot of this specialist, like and I'm thinking some of the biohacking equipment and things like that actually that is part of their not everyday ritual, but that's part of their wellness routines and things anyway. So you're just then providing an extension of that as part of the stay, so it might not feel as much of a jump to that particular audience.
Sure. And just back to the sleep side of things, I think you're right. Any place that can find a way of helping you sleep better than you've ever slept in a hotel before is going to be amazing. But I remember we might have spoken about it before, but the Zedwell hotels, they're the ones who have a hotel built from the old site of a underground car park, and so they've turned the sort of windowless rooms into a feature, and their capsules and their hypnos beds and everything in there, just to really focus on sleep. And I think that's a really interesting practical way of looking at sleep as part of your health, and finding just interesting ways to do it. It makes absolute sense. I have not slept in one, so I probably should do that.
Exactly.
Report back.
Get checked in.
Get checked in next time I'm down. And do it, but it is fascinating.
It is, and I think with a lot of these additional elements, because I suppose especially when it's around like wellness, and if there's real specific tech, and we're talking about, I don't know, everything from maybe IV infusions, etc. Of course, you'll be working with accredited partners to elevate that, but because you're offering at your hotel, you do need to just ensure that you've doing all your due diligence in terms of the risk assessments and the training, and all of the just all of the different touch points, that there's enough training and clarity internally as well as obviously all the exciting kind of marketing and PR messaging that you can put around that. So I think just, bringing that back into the operations, and, we know as a 24/7 business, it's very, there's a lot going on, and even just operating a busy hotel, so just ensuring that there is that additional layer of training and support for team members who are kind of rolling this out.
Well, it wouldn't really feel like a trends piece unless we spoke about AI at some point. It wouldn't really feel
it's like waiting for the AI bell to ring.
When are they going to talk about AI? Well, AI is still there.
It is,
and it's
growing ever more.
It's kind of increasingly being that sort of front door for discovery and discovering hotels, discovering areas, and building itineraries, and more so with booking. Expedia have their ChatGPT app in there now, but it's really going to probably change the way that we market. And one of the most interesting things I've heard recently is the difference between GEO and SEO.
So
Can you tell us a bit about that?
So
you just cover that.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm sure as and again, this could be like a whole series, so I'll try and keep it as condensed. But I think you'll notice, if you've been using search engines of late, you're getting this kind of AI summary.
Yeah.
So where before SEO was with the intention of having your brand as high up on that first page as possible, and that was your main goal with your search engine optimization. So building your website and having all of the sort of technical back-end SEO keywords, backlinks, as well as your kind of content on the front with all of your keywords, etc., working really hard to then ensure that you were listed in that, ideally as number one,
and then you have your sponsored
and
ones,
then you've got your sponsored
posts as well.
Whereas that's been totally turned on its head, and these AI summaries, and this is kind of under the GEO bracket, is it's the AI summary is pulling from multiple sources. So yes, it's looking at your own website as a key area and checking those kind of keywords are featured in that. And depending on what people search for, so best spa hotel in London, I mean, great if you've got some blog content on that, and you've got some press articles that say something similar, and then an influencer's talking about you in this space that references one of the best spa hotels in London, and then your MD has been on a panel talking about that, and that's been featured. So it's pulling from multiple sources.
And don't forget podcasts.
And podcasts, of course, every medium. But it's also taken into account that the personal brand of individuals that work in these businesses as well, the sort of key stakeholders. So it's much more comprehensive. And actually, I think that's where PR and storytelling is becoming ever more important, because that's kind of feeding into all of that criteria. So where we talk about it being the sort of front door, and I think that's a great description, which I think Fox mentions in their report, Fox Communications. So at that discovery phase, and when you're looking at sort of making that booking, you've kind of got this summary which pulls in together with multiple links of the best spa hotels in London, let's say, for argument's sake, and it will then in the AI summary then pull in often a link of maybe 2 or 3 of what they determine are the best spa hotels. Now that might not be the best hotel that is technically SEO optimized. It is pulling in from so many more sources now and determining which hotels it will be visible in that summary. So the goal is now to be in that summary, not to be on the page.
And can you buy your way in there?
Well,
I mean, like because that was always the solution for SEO, wasn't it? You could buy your way into.
I think you will still, of course, be able to have kind of sponsored ads and content depending on like search terms, and whether that's an evolution that the search engines kind of then prioritise, and similar to some of the booking engines, so that if you pay an enhanced commission, you'll be higher up in the in the search order. So I mean, I think it's all very much kind of test and learn anyway.
I did read something with Sam Altman from ChatGPT talking about the trust for the system as well. And so if they were to do these sponsored posts, or something like that, what would your relationship with ChatGPT become? And it must be a challenge for them. They must be because they must be trying to make some money as well, right?
Well, I think, and there's definitely a shift, even in the short time, of people using ChatGPT as that search engine. And as you mentioned, Booking.com and Expedia now have integrations with ChatGPT, so you can book. It's really interesting. There's a lot of discussion with a lot of kind of hotel tech experts that are saying that, this utopia that ChatGPT are sort of projecting that they can reach is this kind of one click booking your travels. You condense that whole inspiration, consideration, booking phase into basically a single ChatGPT query. But if we think about how complex and fragmented hotel booking systems, generally speaking, and CRS and GDS and all the rest of it, there's no real one solution and one system. So that whilst the condensed and inspiration phase can be certainly helped through ChatGPT and proposed itineraries, there's still so many different touch points that somebody will look to before they commit to travel, and that will be maybe getting their kind of itinerary, but then they'll go off and research, look at Instagram, look at TikTok, look at TripAdvisor reviews, look at Google reviews. So whilst it's really slightly more efficient, I still think that booking something like travel, there's so many other complexities and kind of emotional sort of touch points that you need to move through, but it is really interesting. And I think that as hoteliers and across the hospitality industry, we need to just be so on it with how we adapt our messaging, our marketing, how we lean on our sort of digital agencies to ensure that the geo element is considered above the SEO element. So there's, I think, working with your agencies, your PR agencies around your content and reinforcing your positioning, and just ensuring you've got a consistent message, great visual assets, photography, videography, and really kind of showcasing with authenticity what it is and what your USP is ultimately. So I think the biggest change is that if you don't get that right, then you're not going to be visible. So it's as simple as that. So there's a lot of, I think, auditing and groundwork to be done to ensure that your messaging is consistent, and then you remain visible as everything changes.
Should we talk a little bit about sports tourism?
Well, World Cup is on the horizon, isn't it?
Which one? Football or soccer or also Rugby World Cup at the draw?
Oh yeah.
So sports tourism is always something, but the 2026 World Cup's draw, probably at the time we're reading, at the time you're listening to this, it probably will have already happened. But it's going to be the biggest World Cup ever in terms of there's 48 teams. And the initial reports are that while lots of areas have had an economic boost, apparently they're promising a $30.5 billion economic boost. But there's still some challenges in some areas, not quite seeing these bookings materialise as they expected. Now, Ireland haven't qualified yet, so that would probably have a little bit of a difference.
It would.
But other tournaments are happening. The Rugby World Cup draw happened this week as well, and that's going to be in Australia in 2 years' time. 2 years' time. And things like the African Cup of Nations is just about to start or has just started. And we had Asdean a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago on talking about how everything there is completely booked up.
In
Morocco, which is great. But I wonder what's going on with the World Cup in North America. There's obviously lots of political things going on. They were threatening to pull some cities from the World Cup and all sorts of things. So it probably doesn't help.
If
you're trying to book something in advance. but sports tourism, we know it's a huge thing. We know that dynamic pricing is having an effect. You know, if somewhere is just ridiculously priced, people are put off and they don't like being gouged.
Yeah.
And then other host cities are just trying to kind of avoid just being a bed near the stadium, because that's not really great for their overall impact and their legacy impact that they can have. They want to kind of create loyal customers who are going to come back in the future as well, isn't it? But
yeah, look, it's so interesting, and I think, you know, sports tourism, as we've, you know, long discussed, been a huge driver of tourism to that area, and as you say, that the legacy, and you know, we see this with the Olympics, and you know, like cities like Barcelona, Sydney, and like, what does that legacy look like? I think London 2012 did a brilliant job of that in terms of legacy, and like when you look at the growth of sport and like female led sport as well, it's just been fantastic. But I think talking about the US, I think, yes, the political dialogue has probably created a little bit of uncertainty. And I think, you know, and obviously it's wider than just in the US. But I think, capitalising on if you are in the location and looking at how you can sort of program and create these really meaningful experiences, and the joy of people gathering and celebrating sport, celebrating those moments, those wins. And they're things that people remember for a long time, and it's often multi-generational as well. That you'll, you know, go with a family member, and it'll be things that you'll just talk about, you know, forever. Ray
Houghton scoring the goal on the 18th of June
See, exactly.
1994 against Italy, and then did his little cartwheel.
So embedded
in my memory.
Exactly. So it's a real emotional driver. But I think as much as possible, I suppose, if you're a hotel in these destinations and kind of fringe destinations, or if people are then bolting on travel after they've gone to see particular games, it's about how you can create something that's memorable, that resonates, and that drives that loyalty for that particular hotel or for the brand. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for these hotels and businesses in the area to capitalise on it, but done in a thoughtful way.
Going to visit a World Cup must be absolutely incredible. You know, all the Scottish fans are going to be going there and qualified for the first World Cup in decades, and it's going to be memorable. No matter what happens, it's going to be memorable. No matter where they stay, it's going to be memorable. But I think what can be annoying sometimes is if you walk into a hotel or walk into a business and there's no sort of acknowledgement of this is a big deal. You know, this is one of the probably best experiences of my life, walking in here, and it's amazing. And then I say, oh, I'm here for the football, and then someone goes, huh? Oh, I don't watch soccer, or something like that. You know, but if someone recognizes that and says, you know, oh wow, I'm so pleased that you guys qualified. It's so much fun. I'm looking forward to seeing the game. You know, even just those simple little things in a bar or a restaurant or hotel, and you could just acknowledge it and get your teams to acknowledge and understand that these people are here for you know, potentially a one-off experience. Well, yes, they might be loyal customers in future, but they might not
just
be.
Make the most of that experience. And then I think working really closely with your you know, whether that's your local council or kind of destination kind of marketing and management around, you know, where the fan zones are, what the routes are to get to the stadium, and the sort of practical things actually that sort of frequently asked questions. And then, you know, can you turn sort of underutilized spaces within your hotel and business to create something of a gathering and celebration. So there's some really creative ideas, I think, that businesses can look at in terms of that kind of celebration of sport, whether it be, you know, football, soccer, rugby. So it'll be really interesting to see how that all pans out as we head into 2026.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Ireland, it's March. I think the playoffs are in March, so it'll be a big deal whether or not this is a World Cup.
You just want to do a special episode on that alone.
Book it in. Book it in. Thank you for listening to The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashley and Michael Donald. We hope today's episode has offered some insights and encouragement to anyone navigating the world of hospitality or entrepreneurship. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, want to suggest a topic, or interested in just joining us as a guest, you'll find our contact details in the show notes. Don't forget to follow, like, or subscribe to The Halo Effect on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Until next time, thank you, and we can't wait to welcome you back for more stories and inspiration.